Hello, friends. My name is James Baldwin, and welcome to the Lakeside Drive F1 podcast here on a live stream on YouTube. If you are listening to this podcast via the audio thing, well, then you're going to be interested probably to see how well we do live. Yes, Campy is going live. Send help to my entire body as we review the British Grand Prix. And I'm joined by my friends and yours. It's Tommy T and Campy. G'day, lads. How you doing?
G'day, mate. What's going on?
Gentlemen, we're live. What's going on?
We're live.
What could possibly go wrong?
This is the beginning of the end, isn't it?
It's good to have your company, lads. And it's great to have your company too if you're watching us live on YouTube. I will try my best to keep an eye on the comments as we go through. But lads, it was one hell of a race, and it all happened really before we even got through the first lap. But before we get to all of that, if you haven't yet listened to our pre-drinks episode, please go back and do that, because Campy's rant at the very end of that was very, very good. Something about snowflakes and generation differences and all kinds of random stuff, which are all very good and all very happy to be a part of course. But a couple of things, lads, to bring to everyone's attention is, firstly, we've got a bit of a support mechanism. Lots of people, and especially a big shout out to Big Nick on our Discord server, have been saying, hey, lads, we want to be able to give you some dollars. Offered Patreon. We said, no, Patreon's too hard and too difficult. What we want to do is keep all of our content for free and not hiding behind a paywall wall. And in good news, we've been able to set something up with buying us a virtual beer. If you click in the link below in the follow us section in the link tree or on Instagram or everywhere else, you'll be able to find an area to donate some money to us if you feel necessary to do that. You don't feel like you have to, but man, we really appreciate the thought, honestly. Yeah. This is the third year we've done this. And it's the first time. It also means we don't have to have sponsorship, which is, unless you're Box of Neutrals and you're doing a sponsorship thing for, if you listen to that show, you'll know how good they do that. We can't do that. Secondly is the Discord server. It has been going off chops all day today as well, especially after yesterday's race. We've loved that, really, we have. And more people are welcome to join. It's a growing community where we get to talk. Campy gets involved, Tommy T gets involved, I get involved. It is all a bag of fun. So you will also find the link to that in the description below. Tommy T, we've got some new merch that you've designed as well. Can you tell us about that?
We've got some new merch. So we had a Legends tee that we did, and we kind of thought we might be copyright infringing. So we've changed it, and now there's a new version, which is better. And also now there's Lakeside Drive as well, because the previous one had some other name that we don't use anymore. So that's good. Lakeside Drive. The logo looks good. I'm really happy with it. We've got lots of colors. Everything is print on demand as well.
Goes well with the LSD theme, does it, Tommy? Or?
It sure does. But you can pick any color, size, anything on there. So go wild. Because it's all print on demand. So there's no overstock. It's exactly what you want delivered to your door. Perfect.
Love that. You are a good man, a very, very talented Tommy T. So yes, everything that you see in terms of design element, that is all Tommy T. So big shout out to him. Over on YouTube, by the way. Hello, everyone. Hello, Joel and Michelle. Hello, Nick. Yes, you sound like a legend. Good point. Lockie, Mark, and I welcome to the live stream. Great to have you. And also, thanks for following us on all of the socials as well. I wanted to raise this because it's been some time. We've had, there's over 500 people on Instagram now, which is fantastic. 550 on Facebook. And Campy, the biggest number, I think, of all is the fact that we're going to hit a pretty big milestone for downloads. How many are we at?
Just about to tick over 50K, which is astounding compared to what we did in our first year. This year's almost doubled what we had last year. So I am genuinely blown away that people are actually watching us three Muppets talk about something that we know little about. I mean, The Discord chat's great. The thing I like about the most, it just gets people involved. Like because we have fun and we do it because we like it.
Yeah.
There's thousands of people like us that are armchair experts that love to have a chat and get involved too. So I jumped on this afternoon, just in the 5 minutes spare I had, and I was like, 150 messages. This is mental. So no, thank you very much. It's much appreciated. And virtual beers, I don't know about that, but yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, we appreciate it very much. 50,000 is huge, considering, Campy, when you and I first started this, and please never go back and listen to those first couple episodes. I probably should just delete them from the world.
We had 300 downloads for our first year or something. So
yeah, it wasn't a lot. I think for our first week, it was like 4 downloads for the thing, and I think it was my mum, your mum, Tommy, and
probably me and you.
And me and you, yeah. So maybe 5. But at the moment, for each of these, we're getting like over 1,000 per week. So it's really, really good, guys. We love doing this. Obviously, we love being authentic as well with it, which is the whole thing, which we've spoken about all the time. And we try and remain positive, right, Campy?
Yeah, all the time, yeah. Less being cynical. Snowflakes. Bloody hell, now we're on YouTube. Oh, they're going to censor us. I love it.
Send help. The last thing that I wanted to mention is Fantasy League. If you're not part of that, we'll go through at the very end of this podcast our favorite names from the Fantasy League. We're giving away some of that delicious merch that Tommy T has designed at the end of the year, not only for our top 3, but also for the best names. We've got a record of all of the best names that we've enjoyed over the last couple of months. So it's never too late to join. And also, finally, is the reviews that we've been getting as well. And I know I'm front loading a whole bunch of stuff into this because we just haven't spoken about it for so long. But plenty. We've got 4 5-star reviews, which is really, really great. Joel, shout out to you, my friend Harry, and A.H. Hendy from America. And my favorite review, which is podcast is great, 5 stars. Podcast is even better by Writes on Keyboard Quickly. And, that is fantastic. So look, thank you for all of that. And if you're watching us on YouTube, feel free to subscribe to that. It all makes a big difference. Okay, lads. Now the race, we've spoken about all the other stuff. All of it is in the bin. Not that there's not a lot of space in Campy's bin at the moment, but we're going to put everything else in the bin for now, because this is the Hamilton versus Verstappen debate, which has been absolutely roaring on Discord, part of that 150 messages that were unread. And before we get into it, lads, I thought I'd do a poll on our Instagram and our Discord at the moment. In terms of who they support, 22 people on Instagram supported Hamilton, 43 supported Verstappen, and on Discord, it's very one-sided. 11 Verstappen, 1 Hamilton, and 4 didn't care, which is part of the joy of the Discord server, isn't it, really? But let's actually get into the nitty-gritty. Now, I'm sure most of you have actually seen the footage. We know we've listened to all the radio messages. Tommy T and I just listened to Max's radio just after he crashed, and it's a lot of gurgling. And yeah, did not sound good. 51G impact. Who can be surprised? I will be the judge in this. I'll be Switzerland, if we want, in this debate between the two Thomases.
There's nothing Switzerland about you, Jim.
Thanks.
So nothing.
Support.
Other than you flew there once.
I flew over
it. Career.
Never going to get away from it. Anyway, I shall let the defence have the floor. Campy, why do you support Lewis Hamilton in this position?
I don't support either of them. I just think it was a racing incident. I went back and I watched the line that the drivers are taking qualifying through that corner. And the idea is that you are so far to the right and your outside tyres on the curbing into cops. So, and then the apex is quite late in that corner. So the apex that Hamilton supposedly missed was actually further around the corner than what the pictures actually suggest. Now, my issue is you've got Max Verstappen, who is racing Hamilton so hard it's not funny, up the old pit start straight to get down that right hand side that Lewis did. Like, he came bloody close to the wall, and there was just a tiny bit more than a car's width to get through it. And once he got through it, Hamilton didn't get in front of him, but he drew up, and their front tyres were in line with each other at some point. Now, I think he's far enough up the inside of Verstappen there in order to have a genuine crack at that corner. Now, the problem comes is because both of them were not on the proper racing line for that corner. So they talk about missed apexes, and I just think that in relation to where both cars were positioned on the road in the entry point to that, the existing apex doesn't matter. Like, their trajectory for apexes was out in the middle of the road somewhere, 3/4 of the way around the corner, because of where their cars were positioned. And unfortunately, 2 doesn't go into 1. Both their lines are going to collide. If you look at Max, he had so much more room on the outside. His car was positioned right in the middle lane of the straight, and almost tried to do the same thing that Hamilton did, in the sense that, hey, we're offline, we're going in this corner flat out. Therefore, yeah, I mean, it was just bound to happen. They were racing hard. If you look at the lap leading up to it too, I mean, geez, there's some bloody close racing in there. There was one into Brooklands where Hamilton was clearly in front, left room for Verstappen to come up in the middle and underneath him on the inside. So, yeah, look, these guys, professionals, amazing to watch what they were doing. I don't think either of them would have made the corner at the trajectories they were on. Just so happened that 2 doesn't go into 1, and that's motorsport. Sometimes Max had a crash, but yeah, that's my defence.
Thank you. You may
If
take
that
your
made
seat.
sense. Shut up, Tommy T, you muffet.
I haven't even seen that yet. I can't win.
Before the prosecution takes the floor, I'd like to point out that Lockie in the live YouTube chat has pointed out the obvious. It all stems from Bottas not stopping in his pit box properly. Tommy T.
It's always Bottas' fault,
It's
isn't
always
it? Poor guy.
Bottas' fault. We'll talk about him in a bit. Tommy T, take the stand.
I completely agree with most of what Campy said. I do think Max had more of the traditional racing line and was going to be closer to the apex. He opened up the corner and he was trying to get a later entry for a better exit. But I think what Hamilton was doing was never going to get close. He was barely going to keep it on the track. He was going to end up close to where Max ended up in the wall and punted him that way with his angle. And the speed he was carrying was not going to make it around that corner. I think both of them were carrying too much speed, but Lewis far more speed than Max. Therefore, I think it was on him to yield in that situation. If Max yielded, I think Lewis still would have hit him because of their crossing trajectories, like you pointed out. Whereas if Lewis yielded and pulled back and just held out and let Max cut across, which he could have, that would have been the more logical and could have saved an accident. I think, to be honest, Lewis was going into that knowing either Max was going to come off second best or he was going to yield. I think he'd made up his mind that he was going to have to risk it all, because if you can take out your championship rival in that situation, he's the only one he was competing against yesterday.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, he's not competing against everyone else because no one else is in the championship fight. So he's really just trying to compete against Max. If he's DNF'd for some reason or he makes it stick, that's what he's going for. You kind of got to risk it all in that situation, which is, I think, why he lunged so late and hard. But he probably was the one who could have given it up for the sake of everyone getting away safely out of that corner.
Yeah, but you can't tell racing drivers to give it up. Like, that's just not going to happen. These guys are the 2 best drivers in the world, and I just think they played the ultimate game of chicken. Who's backing out last night and who's not? And Verstappen thought Hamilton was going to, and Hamilton thought Verstappen was going to, and they're both probably entitled at some point to make the other one to think that way. And ultimately, Max came second off. Like, race incident, first lap, we've talked about it throughout the year. We want some consistency, and they let things slide on lap 1. So, do I agree that he got a penalty? Absolutely not. But who cares if he did, because he drove like an absolute superstar and went on the race. It's hard to hate that guy sometimes, because like, his driving after that was impeccable. I'm just in awe of some of the results and the speed that he gets out of that car compared to his teammate as well. But I mean, that's another topic. But geez, that guy can drive, and it does it on home soil. It's just like, how could you write the script any better for the British Grand Prix, especially after the week the Brits had with the Euros too? So, It's an interesting one. Well, all right.
Yeah.
So we've said our cases. What about the carry on after the race by Red Bull and Mr. Karen Horner?
Let
What
me
a
before we get
squid.
the carry on. Before we engage accusational squid mode. Let's just read, and this was by Failing Jester in our Discord. Pointed this out. This is what the Stewart's decision read: Cars 33 and 44, Verstappen and Hamilton, entered turn 9 with car 33 in the lead and car 44 slightly behind on the inside. Car 44 was on a line that did not reach the apex of the corner with room available to the inside. When car 33 turned into the corner, car 44 did not avoid contact, and the left front of car 44 contacted the right rear of car 33. Car 44 is judged predominantly at fault,
Yep.
Yeah,
which
well,
I think is a
Michael
very
Massey-
good summation.
Massey
And the
would say
language is
that.
predominantly here.
Stop,
so
Massey.
even if you're 51% at fault, you are at fault, according to the letter of the law in the way these.
The
rules are
thing
written.
is, right, if George Russell got a 3-place grid penalty for spinning signs around, I think same like they can't. And
Yeah.
again, we saw this in Austria. Like once they make the decision, the weekend is kind of dictated around the rest of it. Max is okay. That's the main thing. What's
Yep.
disappointing to me is yes, there is. You can say that it's good because the championship fight is closer again, but it's only closer because Max wasn't driving. I don't think that's a
Yep.
fair assessment because Max has spent a long time waiting to get into a position like this. He's still leading by 7 points. That's fantastic, but I genuinely think if Lewis Hamilton was to win the championship this year, and it was a very, very small gap, I would look back to this race and go, yeah, I just don't think I understand. Campy 100%. Lewis extracted amazing pace from that car all weekend, really. And we'll talk more about that in a second. But anyway, I think that's it. That was a very civil conversation, gentlemen.
I know.
Can
What's
just
wrong with
say?
us?
Oh, geez,
Jeez.
call me something, Tommy.
Disappointing.
Come on, come at me.
That's
Come at me.
disappointing. If anyone's interested,
I don't know.
I'm on Max's side, and Lewis should have got a worse penalty. I can't, if they decided to give him a penalty, they should have given him a harsher one. But that's just me. All right, lads, before you can come back, let's start at the very back of the grid as we normally do, and then work our way towards the front. Let's start with Haas and Schumacher and Mazepin. Schumacher finished in 18th, and Mazepin finished in 17th, which was terrible for my fantasy league. Tommy T, what the hell is going on in the back? Do we see anyone there?
I don't think we saw it. I think we saw a lot of mid-pack, to be honest, for once, which was good, but we didn't see anything. I think there was a lot more pit stops happening there for some reason. Don't know why. We didn't see anything. I don't know what to say.
Campy, anything on Haas? Clearly not. Nothing that interesting. We've seemed to have lost Campy slightly. I'm sure we can continue to move on. Tommy
Sorry,
T,
mate.
let's... welcome back. Do you anything on Haas to comment?
Other than Mazepin spinning in the sprint race, that was pretty funny. But yeah, again, didn't see a lot of them this weekend. My attention was elsewhere. I wasn't really following their pit stop strategies and what they were doing on track because you just see them at the bottom in 19th and 20th. So a bit of a shame for them. I think. Yeah, it's good to see Mazepin got a result over his teammate. Whether it was warranted, I really don't know what happened in the later stage of the races. I wasn't following them at all. So, some in our Discord seem to think that we've been a bit harsh on Mazepin. His form's actually been pretty good. But again, we don't see them. We don't hear from them a lot in the paddock. We don't see them on TV. So we can't get a really good gauge other than who won in qualifying and who won in the race.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think you're right. Definitely... I mean, they were lapped, weren't they? So pretty early on, that's not unusual. We know they're focusing on next year. Yeah. It was just interesting to see the fact that Mazepin got past Schumacher somehow. I haven't even seen that highlight, so I don't know how that happened. I'm sure there was a touch involved. Let's talk about Williams, because George Russell, after all of this absolute hype, British people supporting British people, patting British people on the back on a British people bloody stream, he finished in 12th. So, Tommy T, you were very happy about that?
I wouldn't say happy.
Content.
Content.
I think his failure.
I'll leave it alone now. I would like to see George get a point eventually. At the British Grand Prix would have been too much. I think Laser would have lost his mind if that had happened. He would have absolutely gone mental. Probably Crofty too, to be honest. Solid from him qualifying, but his starts are horrible, aren't they? He's very poor off the start. Dropped 2 places, I think, and then just never got it back. He was unlucky that he was kind of sitting at the back of that pit window, so when people above him pitted, they come out in front of him and just keep dropping him back and back and back. So is what it is. That car just doesn't have race pace. It's got qualifying pace, which is surprising, but it cannot go on a Sunday.
Campy?
Yeah, mate, he had a good weekend qualifying. I mean, this is what drivers need to do to move up the grid. They need to make headlines like they're doing. And that drive that he put, to put it on P7 or 8 or was in qualifying is an outstanding drive. Genuinely, that car's got some qualifying pace comparative to the midfield. I don't think they're in the top three or four cars yet, but yeah, they're going well. I said yesterday that I think we need to attribute a lot of this on-track success to Claire Williams, and I do think that's correct. I mean, we don't see a lot of on-track performance. I mean, we're talking year 18 months out, and I think I said yesterday that the way that she left that team and the organisational structures and the things that were in place to get some respect back in the paddock, I think it's all credit to her. And I think Dorilton Capital are starting to cement their procedures and get some on-track performance. So they just got to go on with it now and not make any poor decisions moving forward so that they get back into that front of the mid-pack. So,
yeah, Valtteri Bottas, world champion for Williams in 2022.
22.
You've heard it here first. Well, second.
You did hear it here first from the Jam.
I keep talking about it because I just want him to have some success. Poor bloke. He didn't even have the drink. He didn't even have the drink. He did not have the drink this weekend, which was why he looked parched as when he was out of the car. Poor bloke. Nick Latifi finishing in 14th. Again, didn't see anything.
Didn't see
him.
anything.
Alfa Romeo, all I kept seeing was Sergio Perez pass Kimi Raikkonen. It must have happened about 70 times this race. All I was like,
Perez pitted about 70 times just to get behind Raikkonen again.
Terrible strategy. But Kimi Raikkonen, Campy, I mean, he's still got it, doesn't he?
Oh, you look at the wheel-to-wheel racing. I said this before. That's what you get from Kimi. There's not a lot of pace in this car. He's not going to be in the points every week. He's not going to be into Q3 every week. But the way in which he drives this car on track against other people is still as good as it's ever been, in my opinion. He's probably the most consistent guy in the sport. Does he lack that extra 3/10 that the best of the best try to find at times? Probably yes, but we're not noticing it in that Alfa Romeo. But some of the on-track driving, I mean, how close? Yeah. And to give people respect and comes with this sport for a long time. And I keep telling everyone it's easy to keep this guy on the sport long term than it is to get rid of him. So we all want him, so why not keep him? He's an incredible driver. It's a shame he's in a stinking car, but I mean, I wouldn't mind him seeing in that. I wouldn't mind him being in that Ferrari still. I think he'd be excellent.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think he would have maintained all of Charles's success with that, and the fact that he was driving the wheels off that car the year before Charles got into it and had some results, including Circuit of America's win. That was a nice moment as well. But Giovinazzi, so Raikkonen finishing in 15th, Giovinazzi finishing in 13th. Gio again had a good weekend. I think he's getting better, and again we don't see a lot of him, but he is getting better and better each weekend, which is interesting because, as we said in the pre-drinks episode, lads, the Alfa Romeo has signed a new multi-year deal with Sauber, but the proviso of you have to have a Ferrari junior driver is now gone. So there's potentially a seat open for, I don't know, Oscar Piastri maybe?
Not biased at all.
No, I think Alfa will they'll want to keep Giovinazzi for the money. I mean, the logical thing would be to get rid of Kimi, move him on, and get a young guy coming through. But I think Giovinazzi, he's having a good year. We're talking about him more, and we've been watching him a hell of a lot more because, again, he's not a driver we see a lot of on track or interview-wise. Not 100% sure why that is, but he seems to be getting it together. And if you're competing with Kimi Raikkonen week in, week out, and you consistently, this year anyway, starting to beat him on track and in qualifying, just shows that 3 or 4 years in this sport, you get into a groove. It's like you start running, and when you start, it's the cadences isn't quite there. But with time and getting used to a garage and the procedures and the systems and everything moving on, it gives these guys time to flourish and actually relax in what they're doing and not being such a head scratching moment all the time. And I think he's probably the driver that has benefited most from getting 2 or 3 years in an organisation. I mean, look at Lando and what he's done in his third year. Giovinazzi, I don't think's had that growth, but he's been consistently there or thereabouts in the last 18 months anyway. So, whereas the first 18 months were a bit more turbulent. So he's turned around, and it's only good for his career, I suppose. Is he still a Ferrari junior driver? Because he's still in there.
Yeah, he's part of the program. He is the Ferrari reserve driver. Don't forget.
Yeah,
I know there's a couple of them, but he is the one.
You know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see one of those Ferrari drivers get COVID this year and then him step up. Not that I want to see anyone get sick, but if it was to happen, we'd get a really good gauge of where he is.
Yeah.
The issue with being in an alpha is that we just don't get to see that sometimes. We don't get to make genuine predictions about drivers until we see them in the best cars racing against the other best people. So,
yeah, but like you said, the yardstick of Kimi Räikkönen is a pretty good measuring stick. So
yeah,
he's doing all right.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's good to see, and I think you're right, Cappy. I mean, he's probably going to suffer the Marcus Ericsson kind of fate, isn't he? Marcus, great driver, and you see him in IndyCar doing very, very well, but just never in an opportunity to do much with a car like that. Anyway, but it's a shame, but it is what it is. Aston Martin, the team that is actually their home race. There's a whole bunch of teams that say this is their home race, but they're basically at the track, so we'll say it's their home race. Vettel. DNF. We had some master splan going on, didn't we, Tommy T?
Yes, we did.
He went back to his
Spinella.
spinning.
He's back.
But yeah, it's a shame to see because he was actually making a lot of gains, wasn't he?
He was doing well. He was competing with Alonso for a bit and with Kimi and his old mates from back in the day, which he does tend to do a lot now, doesn't he? He was looking solid, but yeah, I don't know what the DNF was actually in the end. I think it was something technical. Where they just had to retire.
Probably because he was so far behind the technicality of like Fernando Alonso. I can't be bothered racing anymore. I'm retired. Oh, there's something wrong with the car. Oh dear.
Yeah, there's something wrong
coming
with
to the pits.
Yes, but the spin was very interesting. I think he was just in turbulent air, and we did actually see turbulent air a fair bit this weekend. It was a topic of discussion. We saw Perez in the sprint race, and then we saw Seb kind of coming around and going in the old pit entrance, which is a wall now, so don't do that. But yeah. And then Stroll, Campy, we didn't see much of him, did we?
Yeah, not a great result for Aston Martin. Not the. I mean, that's the first mistake Seb's made in 5 or 6 races, so got to give him some credit there. And he was racing hard. He just got. I don't think it was like the spins we've seen previously in years before. He's driving well, but Stroll struggling. Really struggling this year. I think he started well in comparison to Seb. We're 10 or 11 races in there, and I don't remember anything that kid's done this year so far. At least the previous years, like he's done things. He's got a pole position in the rain, or he's got a podium in his first year. I've always said this guy's, 1 in 5 races he's going to come out and perform out of his skin, and he'll do things. But he hasn't done that this year in this car. I think they've got some genuine pace deficits from what they did last year. And, last year they copied the Mercedes car, and this year they've copied the Mercedes car as well. They've built on that, but they haven't got it right, a bit like the top team, and it's dropped them back. So, short-term gain for them last year in copying that car was a good thing, but, look at it second year down the line, not so good. And I don't think any of us would have predicted that, but I think Stroll is he's reaping the benefits of the decisions that the team has made. I think he's a better driver than Seb? Absolutely not. But there you go. I mean, he's got a 4-time world championship in his garage. He should be learning off that guy every day. He should be an absolute sponge. Learning, getting understanding philosophies, car philosophies, but you just don't see the guy. He doesn't project an attitude that's what he does. He just projects this. Oh yeah,
kind of fake media polish kind of crap that we don't like.
Yeah, it's like, pressure produces diamonds. And it's like, what on earth are you talking about?
That was a great impression. Can you do that more often, please?
Yeah.
Shout out to our Canadian listeners, please. And that's why we changed the name of the podcast, because now we're an international brand, and we're going to exclusively do Canadian accents.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? That's the problem with the kid.
Yeah, totally.
You know,
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
he's not
Yeah.
like a
One-liners that
Lando.
are written for him.
He's not like a Lando or a George, and not that I particularly like the way they go about it in media, but they come out and they're front foot and they're happy and they're stoked to be here. They're everyone's best friend. It helps because they're British too. But I mean, you could see Stroll
Are
come
they?
out on the front. I mean, you could see him come out on the front foot and try to, win friends and influence people to give it, a stupid quote like that. But he doesn't seem to be that sort of guy. He just seems to be too content with life and how it is. And
How
don't know
dare
if he's,
he?
don't know if he's got that X factor. You know what I mean? I don't know
Yeah.
if he's got,
Yep.
he may do behind closed doors, but we're just making a summation on the way he performs in media sometimes. So.
Yeah. But I think that's all we get access to, right? And that's why these guys go through media training. And, when Lewis is, really off form, we say, hey, come on, that's not, or anyone really, not good enough. But when they're on, you actually, the fact that we then have to comment, geez, that person was really good with the media today is like, yeah. And as Jensen said in the grid walk, that we actually had one now, when we were actually looking at cars and not Hollywood actors, that I just don't care about. If I wanted to watch Tom Cruise, I'd put on a movie. I'm here to look at Formula One. I'm here to look at other team designers looking at other teams' cars. Adrian Newey was like all up in Aston Martin's. That's cool. I want to see that. But anyway, Jensen said, when asked by Martin Brundle, is it off-putting when one of us or a camera crew comes up and asks you questions before the race? He said, no, it's part of it. It's all part of the deal, all part of driving a Formula One car, and that's what you get to do. So, it's interesting with Stroll, isn't it?
He got some points though, so that's a tick.
And he finished in 8th. So,
so it wasn't a bad result.
No, you're not wrong. And this car is not, as you say, Campy, that it's not as strong as last year, and they definitely weren't prepared for that at all. So any kind of banking of points is a good thing, really. And I guess it's sort of that AlphaTauri Alpine middle group that they're really against here. Yep. Let's talk about AlphaTauri because Gasly finished in 11th, Tsunoda in 10th. Tsunoda got a point. Wow.
I think that was because Gasly had another late pit stop for some reason.
Yeah, it's Gasly. Yeah, interesting strategy. They hold Gasly out at the moment, don't they? Just waiting for a safety car.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It was like in the last 5 laps. I don't know what you were expecting to happen there. Making up a pit window of 18-ish seconds in a handful of laps doesn't seem logical. So I don't know why you wouldn't have just tried to survive on whatever tires you had in the position you had.
Yeah,
it'd be very interesting to see why that strategy was decided upon. I mean, Campy said it.
He was the last to pit in the blokes that started on the hards. So I think he went to about lap 28 or something, and he held up Danny Rick for about 5 or 6 of those laps too. Yep. So,
but like you said, if you're going to commit to a 2-stop, do it early. Don't muck around with it. I think that was the issue. Was like they left it too late, and then he tried to make a 1-stop work, and it didn't. So they had to do that like emergency kind of 2-stop. So they don't.
No, I disagree. I think he was going for the 1-stop the whole time, but with 5 laps to go, he was like, I can't make this work. Well, he was the last to pit.
Yeah.
On the hard or on the mediums or the hards or whatever his strategy was, but I think they saw an opportunity to
go different,
romp home, and past 7 or 8 people on the last bit. But what did he become? Did he become 11th?
11th, yeah, just outside the points. Yeah,
just a bit short. So I think that was their play. I think they just got that wrong. I just think he overcooked the tyres on the start of the second stint.
Yeah, good for Yuki though, right? I mean, he needs to be getting points. And whilst this necessarily wasn't potentially all about talent, the fact that he was ahead of his teammate, and that's important stat for him right now. It needs to continue in that space as well, because Helmut Marko's not going to suffer fools for long, is he? We've seen this before. And once that contract with Honda disappears, the likelihood of him staying in that team when you've got people like Liam Lawson, who are doing pretty well, who drove a lot of Red Bull cars at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, they're knocking on the door. And it would be nice to have a Kiwi in, because I feel for Brendan Hartley. He was dragged out of another series to be plopped into F1 rather, and
just to fail.
Just didn't work for him because the whatever it was called, Toro Rosso at that point was just rubbish. It'd be nice to have some Kiwis, wouldn't it, Campy? You'd be happy with that?
I think Hartley, in comparison to Gasly, it was him and Gasly that went toe to toe, wasn't it? Yeah, Gasly got the drive. That's right. I mean, I don't think Hartley deserved the drive on the top, but I mean, he had a couple of years in F1, 1 year in F1. Not just, mate, the amount of incidents that guy got into that wasn't his fault, in my opinion.
Yeah, he was very unlucky.
Yeah,
Unlucky,
and I've
but
just been reminded, by the way, that Gasly's got a puncture. He had a puncture, and that's why he had to do
is
it
that
again.
what it was? Good.
Thanks, guys. Live fact checking. Of
Anyway,
this podcast.
moving on.
Lots to do with that.
We'll get to the good stuff.
Alpine.
Who's that?
Alpine,
Yeah.
good stuff. Okay, let's talk about Esteban Ocon because he finished in the points. That's enough. Let's talk about Fernando Alonso.
Yeah,
Because
Ocon, he got a new chassis this week, so
he did. He
he
feels
was
better
happy.
about himself.
He's happy, but he had some genuine pace in practices.
Do you think he actually got a new chassis, or they just told him he got a new chassis? Because I would do that.
They just sanded the numbers off and then just put new numbers on. Yeah, it's a new chassis, mate.
It's a new one. It's better.
Yeah.
We
Do
fixed
you
it.
feel better?
It's so much better. Look.
Yeah.
So I just grinded off those those VIN numbers.
Took it down to Campy's workshop. The LSD special, please. Sounds dodgier.
I mean, you kind of had to perform because if you're blaming the chassis and they change it, you've got no more excuses, do you? Isn't that right, Campy?
Well, he's got a 3-year contract to look forward to, so he's sitting pretty comfortable at the moment.
They've gone early. They've gone way too early, especially compared to Fernando Alonso. Like, this guy was on it. Or, I mean, again, weaving a carpet, but he was on it
To be
all
honest,
weekend.
Alpine stuffed at their pit stop, which is what really screwed him. Alonso was on to be doing much better than that. And what was it, like a 14-second pit stop or something in the end? It was ridiculously slow.
Yeah, similar to what happened with Lando. I'm pretty sure. Just really poor timing.
Right,
And
right.
Alonso basically had the same pit stop as Hamilton with the stop-go penalty for no reason, which is brutal. So you wonder why he was so far back.
But there's clearly some upgrades that's been brought to that Alpine, and I think something's clicked for him again because he obviously his last couple of years in Formula One before leaving and then coming back again, he was in that McLaren, which was just terrible, and he wasn't enjoying himself. You can actually see old Nando coming back, and he's putting that car. Well, yeah, he's making the car 6 meters wide, but he's putting the car in positions of grip that I would only suggest Max Verstappen could do. That makes sense. Like he's finding places and getting on the power. It's just really great driving. His onboards all weekend were fantastic to watch.
The guy is a genuine superstar, and he's the Max Verstappen of yesteryear, and he hasn't lost it at all. Look at what he did in that first sprint race. That is Fernando of old. And I was quick to say, I said, if there's going to be drivers going to take advantage of things like that, it's going to be you, Fernando Alonso. Is the guy that guy, his car control, where he puts the cars. I mean, he's done it his whole career, so why would we expect him to not do it now that he's stepped in? He took a few races to adjust. That was ballsy on him, I think. It was a big decision, but they've got it right. Looking at it halfway through the year, he's driving exceptionally well. Give that guy a car to compete. Put him in that Ferrari, and he would have done a better job than Leclerc and Sainz last year. Last night. I think he would have. I don't think he would have beaten Vettel, but Hamilton. But he would have. He would have raced him a lot harder towards the end. Got the job done. He knows what he's doing behind a steering wheel. So I want to see Fernando in a top car because I think if you're beating Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso, and whether you're beating Max Verstappen or you are Max Verstappen, coming up against some guys and some quality cars next year, that's the world championship we want to see.
Big time.
Well,
I think he needed that break away from Formula One to fall back in love with it. Like he was getting very frustrated with McLaren at the end there.
And so shit.
They were, and that was the legacy of the old management still hanging on to everything. And we're doing it this way because we've always done it this way. And they need the fresh blood of exactly. I was hinting at that.
Yeah,
he was James's. Remember last year?
Fredo's for everyone. Yeah, I only said him because I knew it would piss you off, Campy. You're like, really? Oh no, yeah, classic James called bloody picking Ron Dennis.
I would hate to work for you, James. What sort of organisational culture would there be? Everyone's stabbing everyone in the back, talking behind closed door. Oh, no good.
No, just do it to the face. Just banter, constant banter and abuse.
Professional bullying. That's a relationship the three of us have.
Back to my point, I think.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Do you work for Vic Bowl?
I think Alonso going and trying some other categories, doing some other stuff, actually made him go, you know what? I do miss Formula One. It was really good. And going back to Renault now, Alpine is perfect. And he's a bit more humble. He's a bit more like, you know what? I'm going to just kind of play the team game here, do the best thing. I'm not just going to carry on and be a bit of a superstar kind of energy. He's just there to work and get good results, which is
He's there to
awesome
collect
see.
helmets. That's all he wants is other
That's all
people's
he's
helmets at
doing.
the moment.
Yeah.
It's like everybody a rock star. That's it. Everyone's a rock star. That's what's written on the side. Future world champion. Rock star. Love it. It's so just makes I'm happy that he's back. I didn't ever think I would be, but it's back. And potentially next year, we just don't know how good any team's going to be. Doesn't like Alpine might be up the front. Who knows? That'd be great to see. And Fernando will absolutely don't imagine Fernando winning a world championship next year. Can we just let all that sink in?
And then what it would be Ocon would be in like the Red Bull second seat because Fernando would be dominating him. Like, why is this guy in that seat? He's useless. He's like 6/10 off every qualifying. And then he'd be the whipping boy again, which was what we want. So
It'd
yes,
be like Giancarlo Fisichella. You get a couple of results and be done every other race.
Classic. Yes. Just bring back old school F1 and maybe Bernie Eccleston can run the team.
Bring back Flavio.
Ferrari. Let's talk about, speaking about Flavio, let's talk about Ferrari. Carlos Sainz was hot on the heels of Daniel Ricciardo. Not that we got to saw it at the end because all I was watching was that gap between him and Danny Rick. Yeah, and he held it for what seemed like an eternity, but probably close to 10 laps of Carlos Sainz in DRS range, every DRS zone for about 10 laps. Daniel Ricciardo managed to hold him off. But
I love we're talking about Daniel when we're talking about Sainz.
But my point was going to be, yes, well, I mean, hello, welcome. What am I wearing? But Carlos stormed through the field until he couldn't storm anymore. And we know that the classes of drivers at the 5th to 1st were significant. So that's a really good, again, a great performance for Carlos Sainz. Campy, I know you think he's at least on par with Leclerc, even though he's only new to the team. But certainly I think, it's going to be good things for him later in the season.
Yeah, he's excellent all weekend, made up positions everywhere he could. I think he had the pace to beat Danny Rick, and he had him in the pit stop until Ferrari shit the bed on that pit stop.
Exactly.
So,
yeah,
classic.
He'd jumped Danny Rick on track. I mean, Danny Rick only came out 2 seconds in front of him after a 12-second pit stop from
it was
Ferrari.
A long one, wasn't it?
Well, maybe it was 8 or something. Can't remember. But mate, genuinely, I'm clapping Ferrari. Genuinely impressed. It
was a great signing, wasn't it?
We got to give some credit to Mr. Where's Wally himself, Matteo Binotto.
Right.
He has, from where the car was last year
to
where it is this year, the turnaround's huge,
significant.
You don't see teams drop off that much last year to the point where they were a second a lap slower than their main rivals from that jump. You see, they're not quite there with the Red Bull and the Mercedes, but geez, this battle for third in the constructors
was impressive, wasn't it?
Very interesting. I was really impressed with their pace. So good on Ferrari. I don't hear a lot of them in the media. They're not coming out and being the Ferrari of old. They're heads down, bum up, shut up, get the on track stuff right. Then we can be the real Ferrari and bring all the passion and all the stuff that comes with it, and the things that Italians do well. The sense of family and fun and food and all that, the culture. They're super, super loving people. I just think
of postcards going on.
Sorry, but yeah, who's the host? What's her name? Can't remember.
Welcome to Lakeside Drive Getaway.
No, but
Campy is Katrina Roundtree or whatever her name is.
Yeah, the teeth. That's what we call her, teeth. Chompers.
What? I don't even know what you're talking about.
Is postcards even a TV show anymore?
It's just Victoria only, so that's
what I'm
niche.
trying to say is the Italians bring a lot to the world, right?
They do.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is Ferrari has traditionally done that as well. They need to make Ferrari more than what it actually is. But heads down, bum up at the moment. Yep. They're taking it serious. They're not getting all the fluff that we normally get from the Italians, which in the past has ruined that team. I think they've been trying to do it all, but they're getting their on-track stuff right. And then once
used to be about looking good, not about being good so much.
Yeah, well, once they get the on-track stuff right, then they can bring everything else out to the forefront in the way they do it, and they do it really well at times when they get it right. So big kudos to Matteo. We ragged on him big time last year, but I mean, but you just know they're cheating in the background. Next year.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Oh, they're not. They're doing it in your heart.
Allegedly.
They've done. Allegedly. They've done at least 10 hours more in the wind tunnel than everybody else.
Oh, the cleaner got in. I don't know how that happened. Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's his security code.
Oh.
Yeah, very, very good. But Charles Leclerc, genuinely,
Mate.
like he was so gutted to not win that race. I think with a lot of people as well. But he drove a fantastic, read all of the laps up until the last two.
Yeah.
Really good race from him. Tommy T. I mean, we couldn't fault him, could we?
It's kind of like when Max leads a race, you didn't get to see much of it, but man, he was spot on. We know he's an inferior car to
Mm.
that Mercedes, and he had two of them behind him, and he did well all day, other than the last two laps. Which, to be honest, he had no hope with
Mate,
Hamilton on fresh rubber. Like, what was he going to do?
Mm.
that's the difference. That's the difference between Hamilton and Bottas, though. He held Bottas off consistently all race, outdrove,
Yeah.
you know, 10th a lap, 10th and a half a lap, consistently better, and just, you know, got to the point where he's 10 seconds up the road. Bottas couldn't close the gap.
Yep.
I was staggered at their pace.
And the fact that his engine decided to remap itself a couple of times going around
Yeah.
some of the laps as well. So he's handled all that pressure. He's managed to hold off Lewis for such a long time and tyres management, all that sort of other stuff. You know, again, mega drive by him. And we
Yeah.
like Charles. Like, we think he's an excellent driver.
Yeah.
And really, today or last night really showed that. So, really, really massive sort of thumbs up
I
for him,
think
I
Ferrari
suppose.
would be stoked with a second and a six. I don't think they were expecting that coming to Silverstone, to be honest.
And a
I reckon
massive
they're
point
very happy. Yeah.
compared to McLaren, you know, or we're sort of almost on par in a lot of ways in terms of
Yeah.
that, trying to get that third place. But it's good to see. Let's talk about McLaren because Lando Norris finishing in fourth and Danny Ricciardo finishing in fifth. Danny Rick, happy boy. Could have been happier, of course, could have finished high, but it's his highest ever finish. There's a lot of people saying that he's found it, he's all over it, but I know Campy, you don't think he would have been totally stoked with this week's drive?
No, look, he had three opportunities. I mean, he'd be happy with. He wasn't happy with his qualifying. He said still some on the table, which he left out there, which is good to see. It's good to see that he was closer to Lando in qualifying. But he had three opportunities this weekend, three race starts to get in front of his teammate, and I mean, he gained positions on all three starts, but he just lacks that killer punch that we know Danny Ricks had in the last few years. Like what? And that killer punch is like when he pulls up behind Ocon in a Renault and he says, I got fast to get him out of the way, and then drops him by 20 seconds. They're the killer punches that we're used to Danny Rick having. Is it going to be that emphatic against Lando? Well, I think Lando's proved that he's made some big steps this year. But he'll be happy that he's better and he got a season result in fifth this week. But just he's not there yet. He's not. Daniel, he would have gained positions on every three, and he would have put it on a podium, and he would have been pressuring Bottas the whole way through, and capitalising on the other team's mistakes.
Yeah.
His race pace was quick, but he just lost. He lost. I think it was about 7 or 8 seconds in that first stint, being stuck behind whoever he was stuck behind. I can't recall it. Then the second, when he came out after his pit stop, he lost another 5 or 6 seconds to Lando, being stuck behind Gasly. Then the rest of the race after that sort of stuck between that 14 to 17 seconds and never really got any more than that. But then again, I don't think Lando was pushing like he has in other races either. So look, he's performing better, and my boy, he'll be a world champion next year, and he's a superstar. He's the only guy that's ever gone toe to toe with Max Verstappen and beaten him consistently.
Yep.
I think he's a better driver than Hamilton. He just needs. He'll figure out this car, but it's not quite there yet. But we're seeing all the right signs. Trajectory is up, and he's getting better and better every week. He's just not. I don't think he's back yet. I
think he's trying to consolidate his wins. He's playing conservative at the moment. He could have gone for more moves, like you said. There was moves there to be taken if he was being ultra aggressive. But if it doesn't come off and he bins the car, it's not really helping him build that credibility with his team, with his teammate, with all those kind of things. So he's trying to do the right thing by the team, get the culture around him, drag a bunch of people over to the Danny Rick side of the garage and go, I'm the ticket to the world championship. He's doing that slowly by just building on it every week, doing really consistent things and just showing his ability without risking it all for like a random move on his teammate. And to be honest, Lando's starts this year have been pretty incredible. So it's not like he's getting beaten by the rookie Lando. Lando's been very good at his starts all year. So I think he's just kind of taking the safer option, which we know is not what we want, but I think we're going to have to cop it this year while he's just kind of building, because it's all to play for next year.
And points in 9 of 11 races. You can't complain with that. Not the points he's wanted, but
No.
Points.
Points consistently, which is a good sign too.
Yep.
And who's the key? He has to keep the boss happy and the boss's boss. And both of those guys, and that was probably the best part of the Sky Sports coverage, was the McLaren little get together with Lando and Daniel racing, which it seemed worse cars, really. It didn't seem anywhere near as fast as Zach Brown's McLaren. I don't know if you saw that, lads, but it was actually very good. Zach Brown, just an absolute character. Again, really want him on this podcast, but we'll see one day maybe. Nick on the live stream on YouTube said, Campy with a bit of respect for Lando now. You heard it here first. Would you like some more humble pie there, sir? Should we bake some more?
Hey, Nick, chin up, mate. I still don't like him. He's still in my bin and he's not coming out. He can come out of the bin when Danny Rick's pounding him, got him in submission. Because Lando, I can tell you next year, Lando won't be a very good driver. He won't be able to adapt to a new philosophy and a new driving style. So Danny Rick will pants him next year and make him look second rate.
As we've said, Campy, this is all practice for Daniel to be in that car and get to grips with it faster next year ahead of other people, because he's struggled to get his head around the different driving style over other people. They haven't had to sort of exercise that part of their brain. It's a good thing.
A bit of poetic justice next year. It's going to be Max Verstappen v Daniel Ricciardo for the whole championship. And this car, Danny Rick's going to get in it and he's going to be like, oh, this is the girl I've waited for my whole life. Let's get it. Be a match made in heaven. Mark my words.
We found the trailer for 2022, sorry, and that's it. It's you. Just that whole that was so poetic. I actually just want to end the podcast there. It's so can we talk about Red Bull? Because unless Lando Norris, you have anything more to add, Tommy T?
No, Lando was solid.
Yeah, it's good. Good result for the team. Red Bull. Sergio Perez's strategy was terrible. I don't understand why they brought him in so early. He was the only car on the hards, and they pitted him they pitted him before Gasly, and Gasly was still in the mediums and last to pit. Very, very odd, wasn't it, Tommy T?
I had no idea why. I'm very confused. I think they were looking for a window back there somewhere, maybe, where they found like they had clean air, and that was the only reason I could think of to pit on the hard when there was still mediums running around. It didn't make any sense.
They pitted Perez late to get the fastest lap to knock some points off.
Yes.
Yeah.
They knew he wouldn't get the fastest lap, but they wanted to not give it to Lewis. And I love that pettiness. I'm here for that.
I just don't understand them pitting him so early. Like he could have gone again and then been in top 10 and got to the point. Like, so what I don't understand, like the rest of his race was sort of written in stone by that point because he was at the back. Yes, I think the pettiness is fantastic. It's very much a Karen Horner thing to do after everything that happened, because he was disappointed, not angry, at that whole situation with Lewis. That was his whole attitude the whole weekend. But really, it was good.
Don't underestimate how hard it was to pass on this track. So,
for sure. Absolutely. But that's why the pit strategy was so important. And that's why it just didn't make sense. There was nothing that I could see that it was ever going to be that longevity for him to undercut and then get massively ahead. That's why I said he overtook Kimi Räikkönen 70 times, it seems like. Yeah. Anyway, Max Verstappen, let's talk about him. If you haven't heard the audio from his crash, as I said, Tommy T and I just listened to it before we started recording. And again, lots of gurgling. Poor bloke. It was really, really hard. But Campy, let's talk about everything that happened afterwards. Here is your opportunity to provide Squid, association membership.
Look, I can handle Red Bull coming out saying it's totally his fault, but to come out and say it's unsportsmanlike for Lewis to carry on the way, shut up. Shut up, Christian Horner. Go into bat for your guy and say it wasn't his fault, but we're going to leave it into the stewards. They know how this game works. And he played it brilliantly, but he played the man. I don't play the man. I don't like it. It just sounds like they're whinging. Helmet Marco in the background saying Lewis should be suspended. Mate, Helmet, fuck off. Get out of this sport. You're a dud. Look, seriously, it's just keep it within the realms of the sport and what happens. Come out and say that was dangerous drive. We don't like it. He should be getting penalised. He should be getting this. But to play the man say it's unsportsmanlike, it's not a good look for our sport. And carry on like I mean, they're starting to play in territory where they think they're, I don't know what the right word is, but I don't know what the word is. Go on,
That
Blake.
really petered out, didn't it?
Oh, sorry, but no, look, I made my point. Shut up. Stop playing the man.
I think the thing was it was going both ways. Like they were both very hard on the offensive. Toto sending emails, Karen complaining on the radio.
Michael,
Toto wrote that digital check pretty quickly, didn't he?
Yeah.
Did you get my email?
I sent you an email.
I sent you a couple of Bitcoin, pal. Just let's sort that out. No, I really like the ability for the radio to Michael Massey. I think that's really interesting. And it's
Only
good to
when
have this year.
Crofty's not talking over the top of it.
Oh, if that guy could shut up, well, that'd be excellent. No,
I think Massey should have just come out and said, "Look, Karen, shut up. I know what I'm doing up here, all right?"
But it's
Oi,
nothing
Toto.
to do with him.
he's not a steward
And
either.
that's,
He's a
that's
race
what they were
director.
trying to say. Is like, guys, like it's all good that you're calling me up, but it's literally nothing to do with me. Go upstairs.
Exactly.
Which is
Shut up. I'm trying to do a job up here. Stay in your lane, you muppets.
Do you have lanes
Massey.
in your bin?
Huh?
There's certain lanes for certain people in the bin.
Yeah, but I'm multi-talented, boys. So that's all right.
One of a kind.
You can swim and not die from lack of breath. That's very good from you. Okay, let's talk about Mercedes. Bottas, what is going on? I'm getting really concerned here. I think he knows his fate already.
Yeah.
Although Toto's come out and said that no decision has been made and no driver knows
Do we
yet. We know
believe
what
that?
that's about. Exactly right. Tommy T, how do we feel about VB?
It's done, mate. I reckon it's done. I reckon he knows it's done. The look on his face after his sprint race when he knew where he was starting, he could just see it on his face. He's like, "Yeah, it is what it is." Like he just knows his fate. He put up no resistance whatsoever for that team order as well. If he was still feeling like he had a competitive edge and he was still going to be in that team into the future, I think he would have heard something like, "No, give me a shot, give me more laps to do it." Those kind of things. There's no resistance. He just kind of gave it up. I think he's pretty resigned to knowing that he's not got that seat next year, and he's actively looking. I think.
Campy?
Yeah, it's a shame to see. I wanted him to win the world championship this year. He's just lacked pace, hasn't he?
Mhm.
Compared to Lewis. I mean, he can
starts,
go with him.
man. His starts have been horrible.
He can go toe to toe with him on qualifying at the moment, and that's a big feather in his cap.
Yep.
Qualify, but he could keep the race pace with Hamilton, and I think for whatever reason, it's flipped 180 the whole thing. He just lacks that killer punch, does he? Everything's got to go right for him to get the results, which I don't like to see. He's playing a team game. He obviously wants to drive next year. If I'm him and he loses that Mercedes drive, what's the point in coming back to the sport, really?
Yeah.
Mate, we'll go to Williams, see what the car's like for 2022. It might be the great equaliser that we've always wanted. I highly doubt it, but the best will still be the best next year. But yeah, it's a shame to watch.
I could see him being a bit of a Gasly figure down there, where he's like the king of his own kingdom down in a different team, as opposed to always being the second fiddle on the best team. Do you know what I mean? He's consistently a bridesmaid. I don't know if that's the life that you always want. Sometimes you want to be the hero of your own story, and at Williams, he could be that.
You got to remember how good this guy is, though. We're comparing him to Lewis Hamilton, probably the greatest of all. Well, not the greatest of all time in my mind, but in the top 5 best drivers we've ever seen. Definitely one of the best drivers of our generation. You know, he goes to any other team, he's probably the number 1 driver, and they pull a whole program around him. You know,
maybe he wants
he's that
that's
good.
a nice change, other than just being like the butler to Sir Lewis.
And he was that.
Long.
He was that in Williams before, you know, going up
Just
against
why I got
the
the
likes
seat.
of Massa and stuff. Like exactly. It's why when Rosberg pulled the pin, Toto was like, there is no shadow of a doubt in my mind that Valtteri is the guy for the job.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton, look, as much as everyone's like, oh, he celebrated with Max's in hospital and stuff. Look, the guy drove that car. It's been lacking pace for pretty much all season, right?
Yeah.
And to get it to a position where it is, yes, especially compared to where Bottas is, great drive from him. And I'm not unhappy with his win because he had to work for it against a Ferrari, which we weren't expecting. So at
Those
least there
last
was a bit
10
of
laps
jeopardy.
were incredible. His pace, consistently fastest lap, chasing down Leclerc through traffic was incredible to watch.
Campy.
Look, after a drive like that, and with all the crap at the start, to get the 10-second penalty, to be under pressure in his hometown, I can't not help but have some admiration for the guy and how good he actually is.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
how he celebrated afterwards, I was like, jeez, I'm super critical of the guy. It's real easy to dislike him at times, but I can't not be. He makes this sport exciting. He makes me excited. I was rooting for him last night. I'm like, come on, mate, get there, which is not me, but you cannot help the way that guy makes you feel about driving sometimes because of his performances. Incredible drive. I'm in awe of what he does. He writes these poetic bloody masterclass stories and then comes out and delivers every time when he needs to. He's been down and out for 6 weeks and, the championship's slipping away, 36 points, and then he comes back and gets a win. It's just, the script is unbelievable.
Yeah,
So congratulations, Lewis. Good on you.
We know how important the home race is to him as well, and to have 8 home race wins.
Yeah,
like we knew that this was something special. I think that's why he was so aggressive throughout the whole weekend. They brought upgrades. They were trying to set him up for the best possible scenario, and he was desperately wanting that win. And you saw it on his face at the end. He was still out of breath when he got out of that car. He gave everything he had, and he was so thankful for the fans. And I think this is one of those genuine ones, not the thanks to all the fans kind of like throwaway stuff. He's genuinely stoked to win in front of that crowd.
Yeah. Talking about the crowd, and that's it for the team by team analysis. Campy, we didn't get your rating up top about the anthem.
God save the Queen.
It was
all right.
It was just nice, wasn't it?
The flyover looked like the French flag. I was like, what?
That's all. They always do that. It's the
RAF.
RAF.
I know.
Jack.
RAF colours.
I know it's
all of that. But it was super early because they were clapping for too long in thanks for whoever. It seemed like they were like, here's a 1 minute clap, and then 17 minutes later.
Someone timed it wrong.
Yeah, I missed that part. I don't watch the build up anymore. I'm just sick of it.
Especially not at that time.
Fair enough. Yeah, you're not wrong. Now, what's our favourite part of this, Campy? This whole thing, what do we like doing?
Fantasy.
Dave's just singing it. Shout out to
sounds like a child's bloody TV show or something.
Shout out to Anton for making all of our stings. I get a live soundboard to use now, which I haven't really done through this whole thing, but I will for the next time. That's important. All right. Here are some fantasy names that I have chosen out of our list. As I said up the top, if you haven't yet joined our fantasy league, please do that. There's prizes for funny names. Ruben's Barry Zero Emissions, Alex B. F Harry Potter, hashtag I stand with Campy, Dave Munnis.
Munnis, you jerk.
Fernando's Basket Weaving, Nicholas H. Just Rustling Bots Feathers, Josh L. Crofty in the Bin, Nick B.
Good.
The Mazepin sequel, Yuki Spinoda. Braden, that was very, very good. Team GB Supporters Club, aka Sky and WTF1, Thomas B. Yeah. Announcement, GR new helmet, Harry T. Yeah, I can't believe George Russell tried to bloody bait us all into that. And a nice one to end, RIP Carlos Reutemann, who passed away a couple weeks ago. Pretty mega guy in the sport too. The top 3 in the fantasy league at the moment is Nose Beers Racing. I wonder what that's in a reference to.
No, but it's KNOWS.
Patrick T. You had me at Halo. James M. and Olympic RT21 John L. Campy, my friend. Unfortunately, look, I was set, all right, to take you guys down with my fantasy team, and big regret, no regrets, but Max Verstappen Red Bull stuffed it for me. Campy, you're 29th, annoyingly. Tommy T.
I'm slipping.
You and your other person with the same name are 30th and 31st. So 2 Darren Ricardos. We actually got to see Darren, side note.
We did.
Danny Rick's Insta. You get to see a photo of Darren. Looks like Cyril. Very bizarre. Maybe that's where Cyril is. He's actually Darren at McLaren now. And I'm in 39th. It's a terrible, terrible weekend. The best team for the week, though, Ricky Rocket and Verkrashen, Byron H, 287 points. Leclerc, Gasly, Alonso, Verstappen, Norris for Turbo, and Ferrari. But there you go, lads. It's been a bloody effort. Thanks for sticking around if you're watching on the live stream for an hour's worth of content. But we are enjoying doing this. And Campy, I mean, Hungaroring is next. And we know there's been pretty significant success there for Danny Rick. Is there potential that he can pick it up and sort of push it forward?
Oh, he's on the up and up. He's a superstar guy. I think he'll be constantly improving every race this year. So he'll be right.
We'll keep it fingers crossed for him. Tommy T, I mean, there's only good things to come for Daniel, isn't there?
Oh, yes. It's getting better and better and better.
Well, that's what we like to hear. If you've enjoyed this, thank you for watching on the live stream.